In this video we are going to talk about Linux and customizing your own version of Linux, if you like, to use for ethical hacking or pen testing. So you've obviously got Kali Linux, which a lot of people use, but I feel like for the average person, especially someone who's just starting up in this, Kali Linux doesn't really help you learn that much about Linux itself, because everything's already there, everything's provided. Linux has got over 600 tools and applications for pen testing and ethical hacking, so you don't actually learn anything, other than using the program itself. So if you wanted to use Nmap, you would just learn how to use Nmap. If you encounter any issues within Linux when you're trying to run a program, you're not necessarily going to know how to fix it or even where to look, because you've never really had to play about with it, because you've just installed Kali, which has got everything in it. So in this video, we're going to download Debian, which is based off Linux, and also Kali Linux is also based off Debian. So we're going to download a fresh install of that, get it set up, and then you can use that as your pen testing or hacking OS. That's what I do at work, and I just install programs as and when I need it. So the reason for this is it forces you, especially in the early days, it forces you to learn how to diagnose issues that you get in Linux and how to fix them and how to install them. And over time, by doing that, you will end up naturally learning more about Linux. So, for example, if you want to install something, even if you wanted to install another program on Kali, because everything's on Kali, all the foundations are already there, it's quite simple to just type in apt install, then the name of the program, and that's it, because it's got all the dependencies it needs, it's got everything on there. Whereas when you're starting with a fresh install, there's a lot of things that you need to set up and install, and a lot of people don't realise. I mean, I'm part of other pen testing and hacking groups, and you get new people join and they ask basic questions just purely because they don't know how to use Google, I suppose. And there's so much information out there that if you literally just copy and paste the error that you're getting, the chances are someone on Stack Overflow will have already asked that question, and there'll be a list of possible solutions for you to try. If you've tried all of those and you've spent hours searching, then ask. But it's much quicker to just look on Stack Overflow and try than to send someone a message or put a message up in Discord or on a comment and then wait hours, days, weeks for maybe an answer. And it may all seem daunting at first, but as your knowledge of Linux increases, then more errors and issues that you need to try and fix will naturally make more sense, because you already have some sort of a foundation. So we're going to start with that. Now, I use VirtualBox just because it's free. I'm not going to go through how to install that, because to be quite frank with you, you should know how to install a simple program on Windows. So my laptop's Windows 10. I just literally go to Google, type in VirtualBox, and then go on their website and download and install VirtualBox. Now, VirtualBox is here. So your bit on the left here will be empty when you first install it. This is what I use for pen testing. This isn't my work laptop, this is my personal one, so that's just one that I have there so that I can just quickly go into that if I need to. So the first thing we need to do is install a fresh, clean version of Debian. So we're just going to type in Debian install. First website we get is debian.org, and then we want the 64-bit PC net inst ISO. So you click that, and it will start downloading. I'm going to cancel it because it's quite a large file and I already have it saved, which is here. So you'll get this file here. So then once we've got that, so we know that we've got that in our downloads. So let's click on new. So your layout here will be slightly different if you haven't got anything here. I think your new will probably end up towards the end, but whatever it is, you're selecting new. We're going to just think of a name. So whatever you type in here is going to be reflected here. So I'm going to put demo Debian. Now, just because I've automatically typed Debian, VirtualBox, which I didn't actually know it did that, it's quite clever. VirtualBox knows that it's a Linux distro, so it will automatically change that. So if I didn't have that, let's say, and initially it was Windows. So let's just change it to demo. You'd come down here, it would say Linux version. There's lots of different versions of Linux. We want Debian 64-bit if that is what your computer is. We're then going to go next. So we want to select the amount of RAM. So on this laptop I only got 8 gigs of RAM, which for me is fine. I'm just going to set that to, let's just say 2. So we've got 2 gigs. Next. So we want it to create a virtual hard disk. Dynamically allocate. So we're going to change this so it won't take up all of this space. It just means that we are assigning this amount of space to that virtual machine, so it can go up to that. So it might only take up, I don't know, let's say 4 gig to start with. And as you start adding more programs and files and all that stuff, it can expand all the way up to whatever you set it to. So I'm going to say 22 gig. So we've now created an empty virtual machine, so we need to load it up. If we click start, so you'll get this bit here. Now this will be blank for you. It's only showing this for me because it knows where it's kept from when I created that one. So you'd normally click this here, you would click add, you'd go to wherever the downloaded file is, and you'd select that. So you'd click it and click open, but I'm not going to because it's already got mine. Then it would appear here, then you click Debian, click choose, make sure it's populated into here, and then you click start. So this is now going to install Debian into this empty virtual machine. So we want the graphical install, so we just click enter on the keyboard, make that a bit bigger, get rid of that. First thing is language, so I'm going to stick to English. I'm based in the UK, so I'm going to select that. Keyboard is British English, let it install. Right, so the host name. So we're going to change the host name to demo distro, let's say. And as you can read it all here, the host name is a single word that identifies your system to the network. So continue, we're going to leave domain name. So we're going to set a password for the root user. So the root user is basically the person that, or the account, the user that has power over everything. So typically whenever you're using Linux or even Windows to a degree, you will want 2 separate accounts. So you'll want your admin user or your root user to be a user that isn't really used, and then you want your personal account, which is the account that you use all the time. So then that way, if that account does get hacked or you download something whilst you're on your account, it's not going to automatically have root privileges. Whereas if you're using your root user or admin account, you download something that takes control of the computer, it's now got control of your computer with root privileges because it's on that account now, it's been taken over. So we are going to type in password for the root user. So even though you're potentially not going to be using this account much, still take note of the password and make it a good secure password. So this is going to be the full name of the normal user, so the user or the account that you're going to be logging into whenever you use it. So I'm going to put my name, keep that there, and now you need a password for the other account, so the Richard account, not the root, because we've done that. This is the Richard account. Once we've done that, continue. We're going to leave it on guided use entire disk. I'm going to select that partition. Leave that as it is. Leave that as it is. We want to say yes to writing the changes to the disk. I think this bit takes a while, so I'm going to pause the video and then unpause it when it's finished. So now that's finished. It's asking if you want to scan for any additional media, which we don't, so we can click no. Package manager. So I'm going to leave this to the UK because that's basically where I am. Ideally, you'd select a mirror country that is close to you. So that it's going to pull. So whenever you try and request a program to install, it's going to pull it from this here, so deb.debian.org, so they can find it. So I'll click continue. We're going to leave that blank. Again, I'll pause this. Now this bit is just asking if you want to participate in a package usage survey. I'm going to say no. You can click yes if you want, but I'm going to click no. So this bit here, we can choose what environment we like. So I'm going to deselect that and select XFCE, which is the environment, the desktop environment that Kali uses, because I quite like that environment. And I'm going to install a web server. If you wanted to install an SSH server, you just select this, but we're not going to, so we just click continue. Right, this is going to take a while, so I'll pause it again. Right, so now that's finished loading. That will take quite a while, that one. It's asking if we want to install a Grub bootloader, which we do. If we don't install it, it won't be able to load Debian on the virtual machine. So we click its default is yes, so we'll just leave it at that. Click continue. It's asking us what sort of partition we want to load, so we're going to select the only one that we have. Let it do its thing. And now we have the installation complete, so click continue. Push OK to boot Debian. Oh sorry, click enter on the keyboard. So now we're going to log in with the user that we created, not the root user, but just the normal root user. So I'm going to go Richard. And that's it. So you can see obviously it's quite small. I'm going to finish the video here because this was basically just covering the installation. The next video within this series or this playlist will tell you how to install guest editions into VirtualBox, which gives you some sort of extra functionality within VirtualBox. So for example, you can copy and paste between your virtual machine and your host machine, so with my Windows laptop. and other things like, for example, I noticed, I'm sure they've changed this recently because this isn't the menu that I used to see. So display. So I've noticed that in here it doesn't actually have my laptop size, or maybe it did at this laptop, but my work one's smaller. So one of them, it was either this one or my work laptop, it didn't have the size, so I couldn't actually make this normal full-size screen. It was either a little bit under, or it was quite a long way out of the actual viewport. So by installing VirtualBox Guest Edition, so it automatically resizes the screen to match your laptop size, which is very handy. So if you watch the next video, we'll continue on from there. So I actually forgot to go through another little thing with you during the installation or setup, which I'll add on to the end of the video, so which is now. I made this a little bit bigger just so that it's easier to see, and all I did was go into settings, display, change the resolution. But in the next video, when we go through installing guest editions, it'll automatically turn full screen anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. So we are going to open up the terminal. Now, there are some commands that when we run them, we need permission. So this user isn't anything special, it's just a normal user, and we can't run certain things that need root access or root privileges. For example, if we were to run apt update, you get permission denied because we need to run that as root. So what you can do is you can put sudo, and sudo temporarily gives that user root privileges to perform that command. So we can do that at update. So now you get this error, which you wouldn't get in Kali, but we get this error because we're starting off with a fresh install. So you get Richard, which is the account I'm on now. It's not in the sudo as file, so it's just basically a group of names of users that can use the sudo command, and if that name isn't in there, they can't run a command with root privileges. So for us to do that, we need to log in as root. So we can do that from the terminal by just typing in su, which stands for switch user, and a dash. Now we need to type in the password of the root user that we put in when we set it up. So that was the first password that we put in. So now you can see we're logged in as root. You can see that here by the fact it says root here before it said Richard. So now what we want to do is we need to type add user Richard. So we're adding the user Richard to the group sudo, and you get this done. So we'll close. Now we need to log back in. So we need to log back in as Richard. So we'll just type in su, so switch user to Richard. Close this. Close the window. Log out. Log back in as Richard. Then in theory, now if we type in sudo apt update. So now, because Richard is inside the group list of people who can use the command sudo, that means we can now run any command that needs root privileges just by typing in sudo before. And that's that. That was all I needed to add in, just because in order to do the next video, the VirtualBox, we do need to be able to run sudo.